Welcome back to another episode of Aunt and Andrew, where family's everything.
Until it's not.
That's
Hi,
for sure.
Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
I'm doing well. I'm
I
doing
didn't
well.
ask how you were doing. I just
Oh,
said hi.
oh, well, I was telling you I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I already said,
Good.
you know,
Um, this was an interesting episode of
frustrating.
no, I thought it was interesting because I felt it was very much a normal episode.
Oh, I found so many things that were obscure about it. It's not even funny.
Well, but that's what made it a little bit normal. Like there was no big party except the bougie brunch, which wasn't really a big party. There were a lot of just like lives in
Let me
between.
ask you something. No, I wouldn't say a lot because I think a lot means that you don't have great friendships. You have a few very good friends.
Correct.
Would you ever know off of the top of your head the date in which one of their ex-husbands died?
Never. I might
Like
not even remember he was dead. I might not remember the month. Never mind the
maybe
day.
you would remember the month or like the spring or the fall,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
it
date,
would be random.
the
It would be
date,
like, oh, he died like last year, like around before summer. Like it would be like that.
the way that Margaret is trying to hold on to this because she thinks Jackie's a friend and that she'll be able to kind of like
I
power
don't
through
understand
it.
it. When she started with the whole Jan thing again, I was like, it's not like he just died. We're hearing more about Jan's death a year after he died than when he died.
Exactly. And why is that? Oh, that's because last year, Margaret had the storyline of becoming friends with Teresa again. So
Yes.
instead,
And
now
the
she needs to
wedding and
form,
everything
yes,
too going
there's this
on.
narrative that needs to be formed, and it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But I want to start with one thing. Now, for the first time, maybe, what is this, episode 5 or 6, approximately?
Yeah, five, six,
Give
yeah.
a sec. I mean, we should probably know. They
Five,
all
I
just
think.
sort of blend. Um, this was the first time I paid attention to the introductions, and what they say.
Oh,
I
their
still think
taglines?
Marge is the funniest. When she says screenshots, I want to tell you it's the yellows, epic shots. But it's interesting because with the Gorgas, it's all of them. The kids, Joe. And Dolores is with Frank and her kids,
That
which
makes
is
sense. Yeah.
no Paul.
No.
And then Food is with their kids.
Yeah.
Okay. The Aidens, of course, with all of them, their whole Brady Bunch crew there.
Hmm.
Teresa's just with her girls,
Which
not
I
with
like.
Louie. Oh, you do? I thought it was strange she doesn't have Louie.
No, I think it's for her and the girls because it used to be her, Joe, and the girls. And I
Yeah.
think that it's just better for the girls to probably just have it be them.
Okay. I thought that was interesting. Of course, Marge is just Joe. I was surprised she didn't have her mom with her or
I
something.
think that she should pull a Tamara Judge and have like, like whoever in her life is talking to her, her maid, her mother, and her Joe.
Yeah, that's basically it. But I thought that was interesting. I want to tell you, when I drive my Rolls Royce,
Hmm.
I make sure I just pull into any old parking spot too, don't you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Dolores, she's pulling up in what's obviously Paulie. Do we call him Paul or Paulie?
Paulie,
Okay,
Paulie,
Paulie,
Paulie.
um, Paulie, Rolls.
Okay.
And she just brings it into any little tight spot she can find in the restaurant parking lot. I thought when you got a Rolls, you just go park in front. They're happy you're in front. Like
Yeah.
if you have a Rolls Royce and then a Rolls Royce convertible and it's a beautiful day, don't park. Just leave it in front of the establishment. They will thank you. I
I hope
never
so.
seen anybody in my life. I thought to myself, if you bought that Rolls Royce, honey, you would not be pulling into a spot and like squeezing in. I wish they
Oh,
had
yeah.
side cameras they showed and we'd see that afterwards she had a few dings. That's all I could think about. Is
All I
that
can say is that Jackie wasted no time going in on Margaret like the minute that Teresa and Jennifer called her. Therefore, I felt like it was planned.
Oh yeah. 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 Though Jackie this week has had an explanation of why her and Marge actually had a falling out. Now maybe we should talk about that because she was on a podcast and she said Marge came to her and Jen Fessler and asked them to quit the show with her. And Jackie went, well, I'm not quitting the show. And Jen Fessler was like, okay, I will if you want me to. But then when Jackie was like, no, I'm not quitting the show. They told Marge they weren't quitting the show, and she's mad at them because of that, which doesn't make sense.
Doesn't at all.
No, but what I actually think happened is I think she wanted them to quit the show, and she was always going to stay.
That it just, the whole thing seems kind of weird.
I know it doesn't make sense. But also the big rumor this week we got to address right away. I hate to address it right away. Is there is no reunion.
Yeah,
They're talking about they're going to do something different. And Andy Cohen came out and said that the finale of Jersey is right up there with the most epic Jersey, not even Jersey, housewife finales ever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, I just got chills. I love the idea. What would be the most epic? I mean, listen, after Salt Lake, I don't know how anybody, that may be the greatest.
I mean,
the table flip is still fabulous because it was organic, it was new, but receipts, timeline, that will never get old.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that but it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that they didn't talk about it.
What do you mean?
So it was like a surprise.
Yeah. Like now we
already know what happens at the finale.
Do we know what happens at the finale?
Yeah, they like break like a pitcher or whatever. There's this whole thing. Jennifer and Danielle were put on pause, like because
is that the finale? I know
yeah,
that
when they
were.
Break,
yeah. Oh, I thought when you go on pause, that meant
that's
you
like
weren't.
where there's the like with Dolores at the start of the season, how she's sitting at that table at RHONJ.
Oh, that's right. That is how did this happen? Yeah. Oh, I'm still getting chills to think an epic finale, and we've only just started the season.
I don't know. Andy has said that before, and it hasn't checked out.
Oh, I don't know. I have a feeling.
They also hyped up the Vanderpump reunion the last 10 minutes, and what they failed to tell the viewers was that this was going to be 10 minutes that the cast had not seen, not that we hadn't seen.
Yeah. Well, it should be interesting. What vibe we're going to get back to Jackie and Marge, okay? Because that goes back at the end again. What vibe did you get when what's his name? Jaden and Gino were at the race car?
That our moms are making us film and we don't want to be here.
All I could think of is Kim G and the Manzos. Remember when their boys were friends? Yes. And they were like friends.
Rachel and Melissa are friends though.
Yeah, well, they said
Kim G and Caroline Sens were friends for years.
Yeah, but they
said
then
the show started. Melissa and Rachel became friends on the show for the most part.
No, they said at the beginning that they became friends because of those kids, that they're like, oh, such good friends. And that's all.
Yeah, they become friends through the show.
No, I thought they were friends beforehand.
No.
Because they both live in the same city.
No.
I think it was the other way. I'm just telling you. I think they were friends first, and that's how Rachel got him. Okay, the bougie brunch. Are we going to the bougie brunch? Because that really was the highlight of the show. I want to say one thing. I want to get to something. I will say this. When Teresa went to Danielle's house with the tequila, I want to give Danielle props for one thing.
Okay.
She put out a normal plate of cheese and crackers.
Okay, that's good.
Just normal. Not, I had the charcuterie board come in. We had bespoke come in. It's some crazy thing. She put out just a normal plate of cheese and crackers. Nothing fancy. And I thought, Teresa Giudice is coming to your house. I would like have something custom made. No, not Danielle. She just threw some cheese and crackers on the plate. I want to tell you, I give her major props for that. I appreciated a normal plate of cheese and crackers.
I get that part of it, but like
because
at the same
if you were at Jennifer's or somebody else's, there would be a whole big spread. Ridiculous. For the middle of the day. I'm just saying. And I want to say, well, you know what else is interesting? It is obvious from all of the conversations that Bill Aiden is greater than Jennifer in the minds of the cast.
I don't think so. I think that they go to Bill Aiden because of the idea that they think that they can use Bill to kind of like go against.
No, I think they like Bill better. I don't think so. I do. Yeah.
I think that they hate Jennifer, and Bill doesn't show her his true colors the same way Jennifer does.
No, I think they hate Jennifer and they don't mind Bill.
But I don't think there's anything more than to get under Jennifer's skin. It's not about Bill.
Oh, you think it's to annoy Jen?
Or to use Bill to their advantage, because they also know that the narrative Jennifer puts out there is that Bill doesn't have her back.
Bill doesn't really have her back.
I get it, but Marge knows that. They all know that. They know it, so they use Bill as a way to get under Jennifer's skin because they know that Bill will not be as cutthroat as Jennifer, even if he feels that way.
Okay, and question, should Bill care? I mean, should he have, listen, I'm just going to put it from this perspective. Bill is a plastic surgeon who's on call at the hospital when people have a major whatever. He has to go stitch them up. Plus, he has his own private practice. Okay. Tell me something. Should he really care about these silly housewives?
I think that the difference is that
Jennifer wants him to care about this show, and he really, at the end of the day, doesn't.
I think that the men don't care as much about this stuff. Like, it's just the drama. And I also think that they, as I said, I think it's completely calculated. Bill Aiden is a gentleman. So even if he thinks that Marge is like a fucking bitch, he's not going to be like, Marge, you're a fucking bitch. He's going to be like, Marge, I don't like the way you're talking to Jennifer.
Right.
Well, whereas Jennifer will be like, if Marge was rude to Bill, Jennifer would be like, don't fucking talk to my husband like that, you dumb bitch.
Right.
So it's something where I think these women have crossed lines and boundaries, so they don't care what they say to each other. Whereas the men, probably because they've not wanted things to get physical over the years, have never crossed those boundaries versus just, I don't like what's going on right now, I'm going to leave. Or, let's not talk this way. Or what we saw with Pauly and John Fuda in that episode. Right. Whereas, like, if it was Dolores and Rachel Fuda, it would have gotten a little bit more vocal, yelling, screaming. I mean, remember when we saw Dolores go up against Jackie at the Cadillac Ranch type place when she was like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Whereas Pauly would never have been like, Fuda, what are you going to do about it? Like,
yeah.
So I just think it's a different energy.
Pauly's interesting because he's very successful, but he's still kind of street.
Oh, yeah.
Because of where he made his money. He owns this huge cleaning business that cleans all of New York City. I mean, so he's made a lot of money, but he's still like on, he's dealing with cleaners. You know what I'm saying?
That he's
where
scrappy.
Aiden is, let's face it, he's scrappy. Aiden is a surgeon, for God's sake.
Yeah. No,
he's the most educated. He's in a different level and then you've got John Fuda, who's also successful. Not the level of Pauly. Pauly, I think, has got more. Pauly's never going to get divorced, by the way. I'll be shocked.
I just don't know what the, like...
I keep on going back to that. Paul's not getting divorced.
I just think that it's something where, like, I think he might be between a rock and a hard place where it's like he doesn't want to get divorced because of that financial side of things that you talked about.
Yeah.
But he also knows that he can't get married to Dolores without getting divorced.
Of course, it's like, they can't even buy a house.
To my wife? And I also think, though, like, my question is like, if I were Pauly, I'd be like, Dolores, here's the deal. If I get divorced, I owe my ex bleep amount of money.
Yeah.
If I don't get divorced, I don't owe her that money. I just keep paying what I've been paying. But also, we can't get married. So what do we do? Yeah.
Well, let's see where her.
And none of us will know how much money that really is.
I know. It's substantial, though.
It must be.
It has to be, or he would have divorced her by now. Because I can't believe that Dolores has been the only woman he's been involved in since the 17 years he's been separated.
See, my thing, though, is why doesn't he just calculate, like, even if the woman were to live to like 110, how much it would be and offer her an amount of money?
Well, I think too was what happened is he's probably made much more money in the last 17 years that it's almost like had a compounding interest.
I feel like he's probably
17 years
right
ago,
now.
17 years ago, he probably did not have as much money and should have divorced her then, but he's Catholic, he's Irish, they're Irish. You don't get a divorce. Divorce wasn't even legal in Ireland until not that long ago. And so he just stayed married and they lived their own lives. But now he's become wealthy and this interest is compounding. And now she's got him.
I don't think she has him, though. Like, I don't think that's the conversation. I think they've never had to talk about it because this is the first time that he's ever been in a position where he would need to get remarried. So I think now it's like,
or he's been using his wife is every reason not to get married again.
Maybe, but I also think like
I mean, he's kind of in a perfect situation when you think about it, Polly. He's can do anything he wants. He just gives her whatever.
What do you mean the perfect situation? I have a feeling that they decided a long time ago that it wasn't worth it. Or he might have just been lazy. Like they just might not have done it. And then now there's a reason to do it. And I just think that they probably haven't looked at the paperwork. And I have a feeling based on what it seems like, because Dolores has said that she's friendly with the ex, like yada, yada, yada. Like it doesn't seem like they're in this bitter divorce battle of how much.
No, that's what I'm saying though. But I think he's always used the fact, oh, I'm separated as a way to never have to get married to another woman. He may never get divorced.
I don't know. I mean, it seems very much like they're talking about that though. Like, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
It will be. Do you think that 11-carat ring was real?
Yeah, I would assume so. I can't imagine like
maybe it was a lab created.
Aren't we past like having fake things on TV this many seasons into these shows? Like,
I don't know. Do you really think Frank can afford an 11-carat diamond? I mean, that's a whole other level. 11 carats. I mean, you're talking several.
What is it? A couple
$100,000.
Well, maybe he flipped a house and made a couple $100,000 and decided, I'm gonna forget about this house and put it all towards the ring.
I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of money.
Maybe he flipped a house for a jeweler.
I'm just saying, okay, let's go to the bougie party.
Maybe Jennifer Aiden's brother helped him.
Maybe. I know a jeweler. Let's go to the bougie brunch.
Who shows up to their own brunch and wants to start a fight? Danielle.
I didn't understand the gifts. I mean, the gifts were kind of crazy. When Teresa was leaving at the end with this whole big display, it was like something you see on the counter at Macy's. Like, I'm leaving. Thanks. My daughter's got a volleyball game. I was laughing. And I'm going to tell you, I hate nothing more in the Housewives is when we saw it last year with Monica calling I might love her more than Teresa.
Lisa Barlow.
Old. I just love her. Old. And I hate it. And for Rachel Fuda to be calling her an old has-been and this, and what have you ever done with your life? My husband was successful. What have you done? I'm thinking to myself, Teresa Giudice might have done the most with her ability than anybody else I've ever known. I mean, she has made a career out of New York Times bestsellers, commercials, prison, all of that.
Teresa has a double standard with. Yeah, let's talk about people who are in prison.
What have you done in your life?
But let's talk about people who are in prison, but yet you can't talk about me being in prison. Teresa does have a double standard there. Like, if I was Teresa, I would stay.
I've never thought, I want to tell you though, I've never thought Teresa deserved to go to prison, ever.
Okay, that's not what we're wondering though.
I know what she did. I signed
But my point is that if you have a legal, like, that would be like me going on TV and being like, oh, well, you know, you used to be a heroin addict. It's like, no, like I'm a very publicly open alcoholic in recovery. So why would I open up a can of worms of someone that has a similar journey to me? Now, here's the deal. Teresa, you didn't know that you were signing papers, that you were, the whole deal. You've gone on with your life. You've been able to move forward. You did your time. John Fuda, obviously he knew what he was doing, but he clearly, obviously, at this point, like, is not still doing that. So it's like, in my opinion, no,
he's a parking lot attendant.
He's not.
He get the $5, put it in his pocket.
Here's the other deal. If John Fuda, let me explain something to the listeners and to you.
Okay.
John Fuda is not making any, if the person buying the drugs knows who John Fuda even is, he is making this much money off of the drugs. The people making this much money off of the drugs are not even the fifth person in line getting it onto the street. They're the ones getting the
kilos,
the 100 kilos of coke that they're getting from South America, that they're putting through a box in this and getting through a port of Miami and all these different things. Trust me, they're the big guy. So
right.
that's why I believe that this happened a long time ago. It was the
did,
way
but he
when
still
John,
changed his name.
that's fine. That's fine.
You changed your name?
No, but I wasn't
Either.
arrested for selling drugs.
Okay, but he did change his name. Listen, I just think that Rachel Fuda trying to make out like her husband is a saint.
No. I think what she's saying more is I saw Fuda here because I'm sitting here being like, wait, so do we expect this 34-year-old to sit there and take Teresa Giudice's bullshit?
No, I
When
didn't
her
expect her
husband
to,
might
but
have
she doesn't
had
have to
some
call
issues
her
with,
old.
when her husband's had issues with the law, but yet Teresa is the only other person on the cast that has truly not in her past during this era of her life, housewife era.
Yeah, went to prison.
Went to prison. So
Right.
it just seems a little odd. And I agree, like, where I think that I actually think that we're completely off base here. If I was
Martha
Teresa,
Stewart went to prison too.
she's not a housewife.
She's like the original housewife. She kind of invented the
She would be so insulted if you said that.
She's the epitome of a housewife.
She
Martha
licensed
Stewart.
like 60 different products. She's the original Bethany.
Oh, no. Bethany wishes she was Martha. Of course. No.
That's
But
what
I'm saying
but
Martha is like a housewife. She
I
knows how to
get it. But what I'm trying
fold
to say is if I was
and
Teresa, I
cook,
would be like,
plant.
if I was Teresa, I'd actually be like more. What I would say is, Rachel, John and I should be friends. We've both been to we've both gotten in trouble with the law,
Yeah.
and we've both moved on with our lives. And if she said that to Rachel, I can't imagine how Rachel would be like, oh, well, you went to prison too. And Teresa would be like, did you hear what I just said? John and I've had the same experience.
Yeah.
I don't like that Teresa, because I'll just say this. I think that in Teresa can pretend like she didn't know what was going on. Okay.
I don't believe she knew what was going on.
Okay, but she knew something was going on.
I think she knew he was doing some fugazi stuff.
I don't think
but you don't expect to go to prison over it. You don't think.
Did she say, honey, you're not doing things legally. What are we doing with our lives?
I don't think she knew that he wasn't doing things illegal.
Let me finish. My point here is survival. She would never, for her own survival, be like, honey, I'm not going to go buy something. I don't know what you're doing to get us this money. She's going to be like, I'm going to go do what I want. You're providing the money. It's not my problem. I don't know what's going on.
Well, you know what though?
She's going to move on with her life. That's my point. John Fuda, for whatever, he changed his name. He cleaned up his act. He started a business, whatever. He also, I'm sure, in that moment was selling drugs to survive. He clearly didn't have what he has now, and he clearly has not made what he has now selling drugs on the street. So if he's still involved in drugs, based on the fact that he got arrested years ago, I would assume, or I would hope, that the FBI is watching people like him like a hawk versus letting them go under the rug. Whereas Teresa being on a new show with a husband that prior to the housewife, like my point is that like,
what's the point? Get to it.
Teresa should also have the wherewithal to be like, I should probably go after the Fudas for something different than just like John's legal issues from 20 years ago when I've had my own legal issues. I think it was kind of a very narcissistic and arrogant thing to go after when you got those skeletons or a version of those skeletons in your own closet.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I am going to say, if Marge was having issues with Rachel, Marge would be talking about it 24/7. She would be a dog without a bone, and she wouldn't let it go.
See, but no, I agree. That's why I'm saying when Fuda goes, like, I think Teresa shouldn't be barking up this tree because it's just the stupid, like, in my opinion, it's like, Teresa, of anyone here, you should know people go away for things that they shouldn't go away for. People make mistakes.
Yeah,
but
don't call her old.
I get it. My point, no, this is prior to that. Teresa should not have even gone down this road. She could have gone down with like, Fuda, you're trying to, become a star, whatever. Like, focus on what they're really doing, which is the fact that they are so obsessed with trying to bring her down.
Okay, so the question is,
let me fit. No, there's no questions yet.
Okay.
Rachel, on the other hand, should not be going at her age for this. Rachel should be actually leaning in to be like, Teresa, why are you, listen, I don't really have like what Louis did last year with Bo Dietl, all this. I've shared my thoughts on that. I don't want you going after my family. But do you realize how stupid you look for going after my husband on something that happened 20 years ago, when you yourself have had legal problems, you and my husband should actually be understanding each other's perspective a lot more than others.
Okay.
But both of them are not, because they're both so self-absorbed that they can't think of the other person at all, and they just think that they're both right. Rachel's the permanent victim who's upset that, you know, Teresa's going after her family, and Teresa never does anything wrong. That's Teresa Giudice. That's why we love her, because Teresa can do something on one episode and then 6 episodes later say that she's the victim. Because
I do not remember a couple who came on who are thirstier.
Melissa
and
Joe.
Even Melissa and Joe, they at least had a connection.
There's no thirsty here. It is proven
that
that if you don't create a scene and you don't create a
you don't come back.
You don't come
back.
that.
So I understand that.
It's different. We're past the days.
No, but it is different that Evan came in. He didn't try to make it about him.
He didn't care to be on the show.
And Danielle's husband, can't even think of his name right now. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, but you have to understand.
I can't think of his name.
But you're forgetting this.
But John Fuda came into this series
because they contacted his son's mother.
I know. Well, then he shouldn't have made him part of the story.
No.
I'm just saying.
No.
Listen,
either you do not go on the Housewives. To Jennifer Aiden and be like, oh, don't worry, I did go to jail. She can say that. That's true. Jennifer Aiden shouldn't sitting there being like, don't go there, low blow. How about the fact that Teresa's calling her husband a drug dealer? That's a low blow too. So you can't, my point is, you can't live in one world when you're the victim, and then live in another world when you're on the attack. It doesn't work.
Again, first of all, she called her old. And second of all, don't say, what have you ever done with your life? Because Teresa Giudice,
I agree,
has made an incredible life for herself in what she's gone through in her arc.
I think that's why I'm saying they're both wrong. Teresa, you should not be bringing up someone's legal past with your situation. Plain and simple. And Rachel, you should be saying that. But you shouldn't be saying, what have you done with your life? Because Teresa should be able to then come back and be like, well, because of this show that I didn't have to be desperate to get attention on just by being myself, I have been a 5-time New York Times bestseller. I have done this, that, and everything else. So prior to this show, you didn't know who I was. I didn't know who you were. But the point is that Teresa went to their past. So why can't Rachel go to her past? That's all I'm saying. These women.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, why didn't Marge go to the party? Was it established? Because she just said she wasn't going. And what about Jackie? Did Jackie completely like tear her collar? Did she put a line in the sand? Is that I think
Jackie is just, I think we're leading into this idea that Jackie does not want to be. See, I think that what Jackie did is Jackie thought that by aligning with Melissa, Margaret, and the rest in the past was going to keep her safe on the show as a full-time housewife. That didn't work. Right. So Jackie now Jackie is thinking to herself, well, I'm no longer a full-time housewife. I don't have to have an allegiance. I'm coming as a friend, and I'm probably more valuable.
Oh, goodness.
Be more myself than.
If we lose Andrew, will somebody call 911? Because I'll be too busy taking over
Jackie
the show.
Jackie is realizing that she has to be just now herself. There's nothing in it for her. And I think what we also have found is that Teresa's kids are also at very, very formidable parts in their lives. There's no longer the babysitter and that she can show up and only worry about the show. She has one kid going to college who's a senior. She has another kid that's about to be in high school. She has another kid who's most likely going to be engaged in the next year. She has another kid that's in college. All of them need mom, don't need mom. They're independent. So Teresa now, I think, can be more Teresa versus like, I think that you look at someone like it's just, Teresa's in a different place. She doesn't care as much about all these different things. And I think Jackie's realizing that like the Teresa that she was kind of told, because here's the deal. When Teresa goes low, she goes very low.
Oh, she goes to your ankles.
But when you really watch Teresa, she doesn't go as low as she's painted most of the time.
I agree. She could go even further.
Her popularity and
Marge goes much lower.
Because Marge has to. Teresa can do one thing and then the fans support her. Marge has to really nail the coffin shut.
True. And you know what else? we're seeing Teresa this season, something we haven't seen her for what, 8 years, maybe? An actual housewife.
Exactly.
Because she's a newlywed now. Last year, she was planning her wedding. Before then, she just married Louis. She was single. She was getting divorced. Joe was in prison. They weren't together for 3-4 years. She was in prison the year before. When you add that up, this is the first time in about 8 years or so, Teresa's actually a married woman, a housewife, so to speak. I mean,
Yeah,
she
and
was
she's
married
able
and
to be
everything
herself.
else. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a different environment in her life.
Yeah.
Where for the last 7-8 years or so, she didn't have anybody around. Joe was away. Joe was deported. Joe was this. She
Do you,
didn't have
do
a
you know
guy.
what's
Now she
happening?
feels like she's got somebody who will back her up too. And she was alone for a long time.
Are you not seeing too, though?
Because she had her dad in that time too, and he
We're
backed
not
her up.
talking about, like, we're not, like, I have to say, I actually am going to say right now, I have no problem with the Gorgas right now.
Oh, okay.
What problem do you have? Last week you said you liked their scene with their daughter.
Well, I could.
What I'm trying to say is everyone is latching on to this Melissa and Teresa fallout.
Yeah.
To try to, like, and I don't know if it's like, I think Margaret is panicking because she's always been on Melissa's coattails as her Batman or as her Robin to Melissa's Batman against Teresa, right? And so
Agreed.
now Margaret is just looking for an identity because
Yes,
truly
I agree with
Teresa
that.
and Melissa, I actually believe that I think that the Gorgas and the Giudices relationship right now is the healthiest it's ever been on the show. It's non-existent.
Yeah. Well, that's what it needs to be. I would say the only time they had some semblance of health is when the father was alone and very sick.
Yeah, but
because then they had to sort of come together. And Teresa was by herself, and the father was living with Teresa, and she was alone, and the father was sick, and he had heart failure and all that. They had to come together.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say, though, is that, like, the other women, their identities on this show have been carved out by the feud of Melissa and Teresa.
True.
Now there is no feud of Melissa and Teresa. So that's why I think we see Dolores. Dolores is the only one who I think sits back and goes, and she's so lucky. I don't have to pick a side. I've known both Joe Gorga and Teresa Gorga
forever,
Giudice,
20,
whatever,
yeah,
for my life.
Yeah.
So I am not, because they are at a place now where they don't want to have a relationship. Dolores has been given a permission slip to not be involved, whereas the others have all inserted themselves over the years on different sides. And so, unlike Melissa and Teresa, who don't have to speak ever again, because that's the decision they've made,
Yeah.
you have Margaret, who has to figure out what is her relationship with Teresa. You have Fuda, what is your relationship with Teresa? You have Jackie, what is your relationship with both of them? You have Jen Fessler, what's your relationship with both of them? You have Danielle, what is your relationship with both of them? And then you have Jennifer, what is your relationship with Melissa?
I get it.
Now, I have to say, I like the way that Melissa and Jennifer, to finish us up, had their conversation. I thought it was one of the more mature conversations, other than the limp dick line, which I thought was funny. But I think it showed that, like, Melissa, I hope Melissa can see not having Teresa in your life, not talking to Teresa while you're filming is much better off for you and Joe.
I agree.
Run with that. And you know what? If Joe and Melissa and Teresa and Louis were smart, honestly, if I were them, I would each put in maybe, I don't know, $2,500, $3,000, hire a real professional and say, we need a blueprint on how we can film together without crossing the boundary that we've set, because neither one of us want to lose our paycheck. How do we make that happen? And then say, we don't care about the other women. If they want to recast everyone, who cares? But I think that both of them right now are panicking.
Because they should be.
Yeah, I even think Teresa a little bit is panicking, because she's like, okay, at the end of the day, like, and that's why we're seeing them kind of quiet. Whereas the other women, they don't know that, like, they're not only panicking, but they're also insecure panicking. Like Teresa and Melissa know that they are the OGs of this current version of New Jersey.
Totally.
And I even think Melissa looks at herself as the captain of the other team. But here's the deal. The two captains have been playing the game for a long time. And then you have these other players that it's like watching two hockey teams play where the captains have been on the team for 25 years. They've fought everyone else on the other team.
Yeah.
They're over it. They both have won the championship. They're ready to retire. They don't want to retire yet. But then you got these rookies, these newer players that are like, oh, I want to fight that person. Oh, I haven't played with that person. I want to do this. And they're like trying to find their identities. And now they're like, who's going to be the star? But they don't want the teams to dissolve.
Well, not only that, but when they paused and made a friend of Vicki Gunvalson, she hasn't disappeared from OC. She comes in sporadically. When they said bye, Vicki, that was should be a to every housewife
who
thinks they have a level. When they did it to Ramona, who was on every season of New York, actually, they recast New York after completely. They got rid of everybody after they got rid of Ramona.
But we also have to remember Tamara left OC, and Tamara then came back to OC after doing her podcast, which then was a huge resurgence for her. And now
right. But no, I'm talking about OGs though.
I get it, but what I'm trying to
Ramona's
say is
an OG, Vicki's an OG.
I don't think
Vicki's the OG of the OG. But all of them, no matter what level you've achieved, should say to yourself at one point, they got rid of Vicki. They got rid of Ramona.
I don't think Teresa and Melissa are worried to be get rid of.
Say they won't get rid of me.
I think that they're worried, and they're panicking a little bit. But I also think deep down they know they're going to still make money on all their different things, and the amount of money that the show brings them.
Not the same.
But I also think Teresa and Melissa have seen this. This isn't their first season. They've seen, like, they know what the future brings when it comes to just like different opportunities, crossovers, all these different things. I mean, they've watched these.
I'm gonna say too, I know what you're saying. We might be coming to the end of an era, is all I'm gonna say.
I think they're gonna have a reboot, but I also think they learned a lesson from New York, where I feel like I have a feeling that if I was Bravo, what I would do is I would, like, I don't know. I mean, I think they're in a tough place with this, but I also think that they don't need to be. I think Teresa and Melissa, because they've lived it, they know. Like, I think that I guess what I'm trying to say is they took this into consideration when they decided to create that boundary that they weren't going back. I think they both knew this could be what eliminates us from being on this show, but it's what's needed for us to have a healthy life.
I agree.
And I think they've already mentally prepared themselves for that.
Agreed.
And so even though they might be worried about that, they're not panicking because they had to worry so much to make sure that they had their ducks in a row prior to making this decision. And I think that they did.
I agree. All right. Well, follow us. Who's your mess?
My mess is just Margaret because she's all over the place.
Yeah, she's all over. Well, because of Jan.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, she's a mess because of Jan.
I just think that it's not even just that we're seeing her obsessed. We're seeing her not have a storyline, and this is what she does.
Right. I hear you. All right. Follow us on Instagram, everybody, at Aunt and Andrew.
And subscribe and like and comment. We love the comments. Bye.